Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of MINDFLEX the Movement. I'm Dom, founder of MINDFLEX the Movement.
And I'm Courtney, elite athlete and also the founder of MINDFLEX.
She's finding it really awkward to do these intros, so she's laughing a lot.
Yep.
This is take number 4, but we're just going to roll with it.
So before we deep dive into the goal setting and exercises in the MINDFLEX journal,
what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the foundational parts to goal setting before we actually put pen to paper with our goals. Thinking about your dreams and setting goals can be a major source of motivation. You can feel super good while you do it.
thinking about your goal and the outcome of your goal and imagining it can be super exciting.
And as exciting as it is, it's also very difficult to consistently be motivated because we know that motivation comes in waves.
Woo. Who can say that when they always go for a run or when they go to the gym that they feel motivated all the time?
It's important to normalize that too. Who actually genuinely does feel motivated every single day to do things? Even like some of our greats, they also mentioned that they can't rely just on motivation.
And if you're actually one of those people who always feel motivated, like every single day, please let us know. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to pick your brain.
Absolutely. We want you on here.
Yeah.
So we've probably made it obvious enough that motivation and willpower is not something to completely rely on. And that's why our first factor we're going to talk about with goal setting is a bit of self-discipline and commitment.
We know that self-discipline and commitment can be a lot more reliable.
And we know that this means taking steps forward despite discomfort. Self-discipline and commitment is like a muscle. It takes a lot of hard work to actually be able to say no to things that pop up, distractions that take you away, that deviates you away from what is actually important and taking you towards your goals.
For example, you might want to miss training during the week. You could be super exhausted from a long week, or perhaps you're just not emotionally in control, or you feel like you're a bit depleted.
Those times it's important to distinguish between if you're just not wanting to do it and just being realistic with yourself, like you're just not wanting to attend that session because it's hard, it's out of the comfort zone, or are you actually emotionally or physically drained and tired, and that's where maybe you need a bit more recovery in those moments.
Being disciplined, being self-disciplined will help you with that, even if you are feeling a little bit exhausted or not in control.
Yeah, because maybe in those instances you do have to be able to push through and know when to use that self-discipline to attend those training sessions, because they are taking you towards where you want to go in life.
Yeah. So an example for me would be going away for Christmas and always knowing that I had a session on Christmas Day. So my old coach Jackie, she used to always program 10 by 400s on Christmas Day.
Oh, so mean.
And I know, but the distraction was, well, my whole family's having family, breakfast for Christmas and they're opening their presents, but I'm gonna, be self-disciplined, and I'm gonna go out there and get those 10 400s done before they wake up and just get it done before the day even begins, because I'm committed to my goal and I'm disciplined and I want to achieve what I want to achieve. So that's part of my goal. And it was hard some days, especially in Alice Springs when it was cold or raining and you're out there by yourself, and everyone else is having a good time.
Were you tempted to just not do it that day or not?
Yeah, look, so I haven't done it every Christmas, but yes, we did it. There are a lot of people who just don't do it, so we had a whole squad of people, but I was tempted for sure if they were going to do something a little bit more enticing. 10 400s does not sound very nice on Christmas morning before you even have breakfast, vomiting your guts up before you even start the day. But we do what we do because we want to achieve what we want to achieve.
When it comes to the 400s, if you're out there and you've done it, it's one of those if you know sort of scenarios, right?
Absolutely.
400s, it's not easy.
No matter how fast or slow you run a 400, it hurts either way.
Just like what Courtney was saying, self-discipline helps you control any sort of urges that come up that want to push you away from something that's important. Now, saying that, it doesn't mean that you have to go and train on Christmas Day. That was important for Courtney. That's part of her self-discipline, her values, her why, and it's important for you to distinguish what's important for you.
I don't do it every year, but sometimes I would do it. Or else, that New Year's Day when everyone's a bit seedy from a big night out or a late night, waking up the next day and turning up and training for the first training session of the year, because that's important to me.
Yeah, and actually I would do that one.
Yeah, you do that one.
Not Christmas, don't touch my Christmas, but New Year's, absolutely.
But like Dom said, that's not everyone's why, and that's not in everyone's goals. So everyone's goals are unique to themselves, and everyone's why is their own why. So that's my why.
So this is why at the beginning of MINDFLEX, we're very heavy on the why. We're heavy on the values and knowing yourself outside of sport before we even start going into the goal setting. And that discipline is going to come from that solid why. It is easier easier to have self-discipline on easy days.
Yeah, for sure.
It is hard to have it on harder days, and that's why we were saying earlier we need to train it like a muscle.
So that's why being solid with your why will bring you closer to your ideal self.
When we know what we stand for and what our why is, we will tend to prioritize those important whys and important values. It is so much easier said than done, and it is very hard to do to have self-discipline and commitment to things, and you do give up a lot.
Hitting the snooze alarm on your alarm is so much easier than getting up in the cold early mornings and going to the gym, right?
We are always wired to be within our comfort zone. Our brain's so wired that way, to keep us safe and to keep us comfortable. Now saying that, and I know, Court, you mentioned it, pick your battles. Pick the things you want to get uncomfortable with and then to embrace the suck with. You don't have to make your whole life hard and sucky. Pick the things that are worthwhile suffering for and sacrificing things in life for. Yeah, it doesn't all have to be hard.
You gotta make sure that you're also a human as well as an athlete. So you gotta make sure you have time for those things that are gonna give you a bit of joy and a bit of fun in your life. So not everything has to be sucky, not everything has to be uncomfortable, but you don't have to miss out on everything. You can be a little bit flexible, that's what I'm trying to say.
So we've obviously spoken a little bit today about self-discipline and why it is important with goal setting. The other factor that we want to just touch on is fear of failure. It's super normal and common to be scared of failure, to be fearful of failure. So when you're writing those big goals and putting them into place, often with athletes, when they fail at something or they feel like they're stumbling through these goals and they're not meeting their day-to-day tasks, they're going to throw the towel in because they're fearful of failure. Isn't it up there in the world's list of fears as like
failure.
As high or higher than death?
Oh yeah. Like, I don't know about that, but but fear of failure.
I've got to fact check that one.
Yeah. Fear of failure is huge in sport. I mean,
Yeah.
it's huge in life in general. Like it can apply to your job, it can apply to your sport, it can apply to you raising kids or just living life. So yeah, it's huge.
Absolutely, and I think this is where we have to be mindful that we're not going into these goals being too rigid. The day that you're setting the goals, you might set these goals and love what it's about, love the outcomes, it really aligns with your why, and that's all cool. But then life happens, life happens.
You can't control life all the time. You can try, but you can't. There's a lot of things that will pop up and kind of try and veer you away from where you're going, and you just got to kind of make do and adjust as you need.
Going in too rigid is not super helpful. Also, if we have this sort of goal that's very perfect, it's painted really perfect, and even the pathway to get there is super perfect, but be very mindful that perfection doesn't exist. Failure is part of performing. We learn from our failures, we get better from our failures, not just this linear sort of model.
No.
When it comes to goals.
No, it is not. It kind of goes like this. And then you kind of go, okay, I'm here now.
Does it make that noise?
It does. Sometimes it makes that buzzing noise because it's so frustrating and so annoying. But yeah, it's kind of like a little ball of wool and you got to try and find your way. There's a beautiful picture online somewhere. I'll see if we can find it and we put it in the video.
Yeah, for sure. Mine doesn't make a nice buzzing noise. No, mine sounds like an explosion when I feel like I've failed. It's like, you found everything. It takes a lot of talking to yourself and like normalizing that like failure is actually part of it. I love that cliche saying reach for the stars, and if you don't reach the stars, you've made it to the moon. At least if you made it to the moon, you've made some sort of movement towards where you want to go, right? If you want to go to the moon.
Yeah, that's it. Failure is, like as we said, failure is part of sport, it's part of everything we do, but failure at something or failing at something does not mean that you failed your entire goal or your entire life. It just means that you've had to adapt and adjust and try and reassess your goals and look for a new way to achieve your goals, and rather than failing them. It gives you a second chance in a sense. If you want it still bad enough, then you'll find another way and it'll give you another chance. So yeah, failure doesn't have to mean the end of everything. It doesn't mean it's the end of the end.
Absolutely. It just might mean that you've just got to be a bit more strategic and just come back to the drawing board. That's why we don't just set goals and then we like put it in a book and we leave it and we never look at it again.
No.
We have to revisit those goals. We have to be kind to ourselves along the way too, and make sure you're prioritizing your mental health and your well-being along the way as well.
Yeah, and like it's kind of like, you see those professional athletes like rugby players on the TV, and they might have a season-ending injury where they require surgery, and that means they cannot play for the rest of the season. That's a fail in their eyes, but it doesn't mean that they failed their entire sporting goal or anything like that. It just means they've got to adapt and they've got to kind of try and find a way to come back next year even better.
That stumbling, it's just normal to happen along the way. Like Courtney said with her buzzing. Plan for that.
Yes.
Plan that life happens, plan that injury can happen, illness can happen, unexpected things can happen along the way. It's not your fault. You've done the best you can to scaffold towards that goal, to the success of that goal. That all or nothing mindset or that perfectionistic mindset really certainly doesn't help along the way. So doing something is better than nothing, and revisiting the goal and adjusting is better than just completely throwing the towel in.
So that's why it's important to learn from those failures and bring a better version of yourself for next time.
That's why we are so big in MINDFLEX on actually
Bing, bing.
we're so big in MINDFLEX on reflecting, on reassessing, on evaluating, so you can leverage from that and be better and better, but also being realistic that you can stumble along the way. It's part of it.
Don't beat yourself up.
Nope, don't do that. So in summary for this week's episode, and for you to take away and think about, first point,
What is such a worthwhile goal that you're willing to become uncomfortable for and sacrifice other areas of your life?
what is the initial cost or loss in your life? And also, what is the opportunity cost or loss if you do not do this thing? What's it going to cost in your life long term?
What is at risk if you do fail?
And how will you grow as a human regardless of the outcomes if you make that goal or you don't?
Modify your goals if you need to, and remember you are human.
Yes, and be flexible with yourself because something is better than nothing.
The all or nothing mindset catches us all.
So it's important and helpful to plan ahead. Illnesses, injuries, family events, things that might come up. Plan for that and have some adjustments in that if you need to.
Yeah, this will help you be the best version of yourself and help you to achieve and accomplish your goals and be the most flexible athlete you can be.
And then build your accountability by writing these down. That's going to cement it. Now the MINDFLEX is set up with your why and your values and things like that first. So that's going to really help you to do that in order and then cement it down.
Make sure you visualize what you really want.
Yeah, those outcomes, those dreams, it's important to actually really see that in your mind's eye. And as you track through, write those down, come back to your goals, make sure that you celebrate the wins. How important is it?
Even
those
those
little
small
milestones.
ones. Yeah, sorry. We always talk over each other. We have this problem, but even those small, little, tiny wins that no one else knows is a win. Make sure you celebrate those because they're still achievements.
Yeah, and that's why, again, that's why we put that through MINDFLEX. We've got a whole section on celebrating those wins. Write those down as you go. Write them down in the days. Every day is when you self-reflect. You want to learn off yourself. You want to leverage off any challenges you have, but you also want to leverage off those wins as well and to stop and be mindful and be present with those.
Yeah, and then lastly, keep coming back to your why and your values.
Absolutely.
Those smaller actions aligned consistently are super, super relevant to your goal and values and the life that you want to live.
Absolutely. So thank you for listening to today's episode. We look forward to bringing some more foundational steps with goal setting and staying committed to your goals and reaching those goals. But for now, that's probably enough from us hearing our buzzing.
Yes, the buzzing and seeing me lift my heavy weights in the background.
Those 3 kilos really, they were hard.
Yes, I worked up a storm, yes. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for being a part of the community, guys.
Yes.